Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So just recently, there was some more information that was released on the deletion, if you will, of the Omega Psi-Phi pledgee, if you will, by the name of Caleb Wilson, who unfortunately was deleted by the people who were holding this ritual. Let's just call it what it is. When they punched him in the chest, causing him to have a seizure and then unfortunately pass away. Now, I mentioned in a previous video that I really did not believe they only punched him and the rest of those young men one time. I said I couldn't say that yet because we didn't have the evidence to back it up. Now they've come out with this article, these news documents, saying that Caleb Wilson was, and I quote, punched in the chest multiple times while pledging to a fraternity, according to the Baton Rouge Police Chief T.J. Morse. End quote. Now, once again, more information is coming out. More is being cleared up. Again, the initial lie was that he was out at a park, etc. They are saying now, and I quote, a group of males dropped him off unresponsive at a local hospital and reported he collapsed after being struck in the chest while playing basketball at a city park, according to court filings. But upon investigation, officers learned that the incident actually occurred at a warehouse in Baton Rouge where he was pledging to the Omega Psi-Phi fraternity, according to Morse. End quote. Like I said before, all of that was a lie. All of that has been exposed as a lie. Whoever was involved in fabricating that story, they all need jail time for lying about what happened to that young man and covering it up. The first guy who allegedly turned himself in by the name of Caleb McCrae, who we spoke of in the previous video concerning the situation, allegedly he was the one who dealt the punching blow, so to speak, that deleted Caleb Wilson, which is why he's the one allegedly being charged with criminal hazing and deletion, so to speak, allegedly, as I said before. Now, they arrested two others. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know right now, these details to me personally are disturbing surrounding these two, especially this first one. And I quote, Kyle Thurman, 25, was arrested in Port Allen, Louisiana on Monday by the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force and Baton Rouge Police Department's Violent Crime Apprehension Team. Police said he was extradited to Baton Rouge and booked into the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison. Police said it is unclear if he has an attorney, end quote. The reason why I said it's disturbing, and this is not even the most disturbing part, is because they had to go and get this guy. They literally had to go and get him and bring him to Baton Rouge. He wasn't even decent enough to turn himself in like the other guy. And like this next guy, the third guy, Isaiah Smith, who also turned himself in Tuesday. But then again, he may have only turned himself in after he realized they went and got the other guy. So he probably felt like he didn't have no other choice anyways. Either he was going to go or they were going to come get him. Now, Smith is the one on the left in this photo. Thurman is the one on the right. Remember the name Smith for what I'm about to tell y'all next. Now, allegedly, according to the news media outlets, this article, the news, all three of them, McCrae, Smith, and Thurman, were punching these young men. If I'm not mistaken, and if I remember correctly, it was 9 of them, including Caleb Wilson. They all split these young men up and were punching them in the chest multiple times while wearing boxing gloves. Now, it is reported that each of them punched at least one of the young men who were pledging. So like I said before, they all at least need to be charged with assault and criminal hazing, because they shouldn't have been doing this to begin with. Once again, it was McCrae who, as the news media outlets, I'll still say allegedly, and these articles have reported, punched him in the chest 4 times, after which he fell to the ground and started to have a seizure and was unresponsive. Once again, I don't know for sure yet, although I highly doubt that whenever that happened to him, they checked to see if he had a pulse. They checked to see if he was okay, rolled him over on his side, tried to put something in his mouth to keep him from swallowing or biting off his tongue, did chest compressions if he wasn't breathing. tried to do CPR. They could have called the police, the ambulance right then and there. Maybe, perhaps, they would have been able to save him. But because they didn't want to get caught in what they were doing, and because, again, then they would have to have told the truth about what was going on, where they were, and why they were there, they chose not to do any of that. And then God only knows how much time passed by until they decided to bring him to the hospital, which we all know from the very first releasing of information that they allegedly did bring him to the hospital. Now it's being revealed that the person who was responsible for bringing him to the hospital, the car that brought him to the hospital, was registered to Isaiah Smith, the same guy who was in the photo to the left, who I told y'all to remember his name for later on, who's also allegedly, apparently, the dean of pledges. In other words, he was the one responsible with overseeing their initiation process. Once again, which is all the more reason why he needs to have the book thrown at him. If we really want to be technical, despite how people feel, it was quite literally his responsibility to make sure that this did not happen, to make sure that the initiation, and I have an issue with that word in and of itself, but to make sure that entire process went smoothly and didn't nothing go wrong. But of course, that's not going to happen when they're out here hazing people under the radar. And I say under the radar, but I believe somebody in the upper echelon, if you will, of leadership knew what was going on, and they didn't stop him. They didn't say anything. And I quote, "Officers identified Smith as the person seen on surveillance video removing an unresponsive Wilson from the car, according to the affidavits." End quote. They didn't care about that young man. They didn't care about his life, nor his safety, nor the fact that he had a family back at home that cared about him very deeply. Friends, a community that cared about him very deeply. Their intention was to cover this up. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They wanted to get away with it. Now, one thing that really makes me angry about some of these lawyers out here, you can't get some of them to represent people who are innocent, who can't afford for a lawyer or an attorney. But oh my goodness, they're coming out of the framework to represent people who are guilty, who we know are guilty, or who has insurmountable evidence stacked against them. Ridiculousness. You ought not be that easy to buy. Nobody should be that willing to take money to do something like that. Now, this lawyer of Caleb McRae's is claiming his innocence, so to speak, really trying to pull the whole due process this and, oh, don't judge my client too harshly that. We understand due process. We understand innocent till proven guilty, like we also understand proof and evidence. Oh, and we also understand witnesses, because while these lawyers are making these goofy behind statements on behalf of their clients, all for money, and for saving face, if you will, they keep forgetting that there were 8 other pledges there that saw what happened. Those are 8 witnesses whose safety needs to be protected in case somebody wants to try and threaten them out of testifying, if they can, against those 3 individuals. Now, the authorities and investigators claim that Caleb Wilson's deletion, if you will, the cause of which has not been officially determined via autopsy, but they are in the process of that at this moment. Of course, we all just read all this. We read all the articles. We watched all the news. We're putting together what we believe happened. Of course, once again, we have this thing called due process. They've got to go through the process, if you will. I just hope they don't try to pull a stunt like how I mentioned in the previous video concerning this. Try to come up with some, oh, he had a pre-existing condition, and then trying to blame that on what happened to him. Even if they dare to go that far, once again, those 3 individuals still participated in criminal hazing. They still participated in something that was against the law. Technically, what they did to those young men could be considered assault. So there's no reason for why those 3 individuals should be walking away free, let alone having the word innocent or innocence in the same sentence as any of them. Some people on social media had some things to say. One person on YouTube said, and I quote, "I thought hazing was illegal/over. Y'all don't understand how deep this stuff goes. They're never going to stop. Most of the administration is a part of that mess." End quote. Basically, they're saying that a lot of people say stuff like, oh, well, I thought this was all illegal. I thought that they had finally done away with all of that. That's a very naive perspective to have, not to be disrespectful, very surface level, because what you have to understand, once again, just because it's illegal doesn't mean people are going to stop. Something being against the law has never stopped somebody from doing whatever they want to do. And like they said before, like I mentioned before, I do have a feeling that somebody in that administration, in the higher levels of leadership, knew what was going on, but they just looked the other way. Another person said, and I quote, "He was a handsome young man, may his soul rest." End quote. Another person said something that I've been saying for a while, and I quote, "The Greek letters alone should tell you its origin is wicked." End quote. I've said before, that Greek philosophy, that Greek mythology is of the devil 100%. Now, I understand that some people don't know this. That's why, one of the reasons why my channel exists, to inform people about stuff that they might not have known. Maybe their parents didn't know. Maybe they haven't come across it yet. I want people to be informed about certain things so that they can make better decisions, so that they can be aware. They can raise their awareness, work on your discernment, up your wisdom, so to speak. So whenever you see these things, you know where not to go, where not to be involved in, and who not to be involved in, or who not to be involved with, rather. The only issue is the lashback that people like myself and other people who expose this kind of stuff get, due to the fact that some people don't want it to be exposed. They don't care about other people and the safety of other people's children because they're so wrapped up in worshiping their Greek letters. That is their religion. They're so wrapped up in worshiping the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the sorority, the fraternity of it all. Oh, well, this is my fraternity, my sorority, and I don't want you to say anything bad about it because I don't want it to be a reflection back on something that was already bad, built on bad stuff that was not of God to begin with. That's what some people are dealing with. That's what we are dealing with in this space, trying to expose this stuff. And once again, if you come across people who have an attitude or they're mad because people are exposing it, see them for who they are. They don't care about you, because if they did, they would tell you the truth. They wouldn't let this carnal, ungodly mess come in between them doing the right thing, which is telling the truth and doing the right thing. Another person said, and I quote, "They always trying to cover stuff up and say off-campus ritual." Nah, these administrators know what be going on. End quote. Once again, the same thing I said earlier in the video. I just refuse to believe that there was nobody else who knew about this. It was probably somebody, once again, in the higher levels of administration. Y'all know I gotta say allegedly, this is my speculation and opinions. They were probably one of the ones who told them, oh, just label it an off-campus ritual so you won't get in trouble. Allegedly. Anyways, another person said, and I quote, "This needs to stop and all involved should be locked up," end quote. The only way it's going to be stopped is when they hold everybody responsible, accountable, and also by giving harsher punishments for the crimes. Now, unfortunately, there will be some people, they'll just take this as, oh, we just got to be better at not getting caught. But eventually somebody's going to say, nah, that many years in jail over hitting somebody, bending them over and hitting them is not worth it. The possible future victims of these kinds of things like hazing and unfortunate fatalities due to hazing deserve for everybody who has the power to do so, even if all you can do is pray and protest. They deserve for us to do everything we can in our power, individually and together, to prevent them from becoming future victims, possible future victims. Another person said something that blew my mind. I mean, I've agreed with it for a while. I've been saying this for a while, but the fact that somebody else pointed out exactly how I feel and made the connections to a T absolutely blew me away. And I quote, "These sororities remind me of the music industry. Just like artists have to sacrifice or sell their soul, these pledges seem to have to sell their soul and be tortured to be accepted, like it's a must." End quote. The crazy part about this is before I even came across this young lady's comment, I posted that first video concerning this situation, and I mentioned in that video that Freemasonry, which runs amok in the music industry, the people who run the world, who run the industry, they participate in Freemasonry. The open door to Freemasonry are fraternities and sororities. So it should be no surprise that they have to go through the same thing. The humiliation ritual, because that's what they do. You hear about like some of these horror stories, how they have like men stripped naked. Or I saw one picture where it was allegedly like a hazing event where they had them wearing diapers. They really fashion diapers for these grown behind men to be wearing. They do all kind of stuff. They humiliate these young people. They abuse them. They torture them. They try to break them, like she said, all to be accepted into this brotherhood or sisterhood. And I told y'all before, all this is a whack, knockoff, ungodly, antichrist version of what God did. Why should you have to suffer, be humiliated, tortured, and abused just to be accepted again into a brotherhood or a sisterhood when God sent his son to die on the cross for all of your sins? His love, his acceptance, his salvation. You don't have to be tortured and humiliated in order to have it. All you have to do is accept it willingly. It doesn't come at a cost. You just have to live right. That's literally it. One person on YouTube retold a story, an experience, if you will, of a family member of theirs, and I quote, "My brother has been a Q since 1980 something. And all he said was that the stuff they do now is light work compared to what they did, which makes me think that they were tortured. He can't tell exactly what they had to do, but broken bones were expected. Ain't no way," end quote. Ain't no way indeed. Broken bones? Talking about assault. Broken bones? That's definitely torture, like I said before, and it's not something that anybody's son should be going through. And once again, the hush-hush of it all, keeping yourself in the dark, keeping what you're going through in the dark so nobody can help you, nobody can reach out to you, nobody can help guide you out of that, lead you to God so you don't have to go through this. And the craziest part, the saddest part about that is, even to this day, she said he wouldn't tell all of what they did. That it was much worse than the stuff that they do now. I want y'all to know 1980 something was over 4 decades ago. The fact that he's still under that oath of silence for over 4 decades, what have they gotten him under? What have they basically probably threatened him with? That he would not say what happened? Or what did he go through? How badly was he traumatized that he still don't want to talk about it? He needs therapy. He needs Jesus. The help that only God can provide. Again, with that whole oath of silence thing. They do that too in the music industry. You sign certain documents, you sign your soul away, so to speak, and then if you go back and you try to tell what somebody else did, it's game over for you, so to speak. I know we've seen this multiple times. I don't have to go into detail. This one person on YouTube whose handle says, "Break the cycle." I'm very, very in agreement with that. She said, and I quote, "I'm so tired of us continuing to traumatize and hurt each other. We are truly sick," end quote. And that's exactly what it is. Abuse and trauma. Once again, I said in the previous video, some of these people feel like, well, I had to go through it, so you gonna go through it. That's the same mentality that has been running amok in the Black community. Well, I had to go through it, so I'm gonna make my kids go through it, even though I don't have to do that. I can teach them to be grateful for what they have, make sure that they're not growing up in privilege or have a privileged mindset, an entitled mindset. But I don't have to have them struggling like how I was struggling. God didn't bring me out of the struggle to make my kids struggle. That's of the devil. We are, as a community, truly sick indeed. And only God can help us, only God can heal us, and only God can save us. Another person on YouTube said, and I quote, "The hazing is illegal. That's why they don't do it on campus anymore. Omegas have always been too brutal when it comes to pledging," end quote. There should be no brutality at all. Once again, I mentioned that I feel like the reason why they labeled it as an off-campus ritual is so they could get away with it. I have a family member who has the brand, if you will. If you know, you know. Once again, torture, humiliation, abuse, and pain that people should not be put through. It's inhumane. It's inhumane altogether. Another person said, and I quote, "My son is in college and is thinking of joining. I'm terrified. Rest in peace, Caleb," end quote. Show him this video. Show him what happened to this young man. I don't want to hear, once again, oh, it's not all of the fraternities and sororities. I don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. And if it was your son, would you want somebody to say, oh, it wasn't all the fraternities? The fact that it was at least one of them, and we know it's not just the Omegas doing this. The fact that it was them doing this and they got caught, that's enough to say absolutely not to all of them. Another person on YouTube said, and I quote, "So, I usually don't comment, but I had to only due to the fact that my family members pledge. I have a nephew who is a Q dog, his dad is. His mother is a little sister to the fraternity. The things I hear they make a pledger do goes against the moral compass, just in the way of belonging to the bros." End quote. Once again, young man, young woman, you don't have to do all of that. You don't have to do all of that at all. Any brotherhood or sisterhood that'll put you through that just to be one of them, they don't love you. They're not a sisterhood. They're not a brotherhood. They are a group of abusers. And they're of the devil. I said what I said. This one person on YouTube said, "I never understood why people have to prove loyalty by enduring great bodily harm. If I'm your brother and you love me, then why hurt me? Makes no sense at all. I'm glad I never pledged." End quote. I'm glad you never pledged either, because you don't deserve to go through that. One person commented right on the video that I posted not too long ago concerning this situation, as I mentioned before, and I completely agree. It's the same kind of comment. How in the world are you beating me and then the next few weeks we sisters? I never understood that. And I completely agree. Because ain't no more sisterhood after that. You put your hands on me, I'm suing. I believe in praying for people and suing if you do stuff like that. Oh, you will face these consequences, and then you're going to get rebuked and prayed for too. Another person commented, and I quote, "The root cause of a lot of this is due to other fraternities and sororities experiencing hazing. Many feel that the next should experience what they went through, or they are not legitimate." A male family member pledged while at the graduate level. His fraternity brothers from other schools felt that he wasn't authentic because he didn't go through the hazing process, with the eye roll emoji, the green sick emoji, and the throw up emoji. End quote. Because it very much is disgusting to have that kind of mindset towards your fellow brethren and sisterin. This last person said, and I quote, "I had a friend whose tailbone was broken. These frats are sick." End quote. And I highly doubt those raggedy behind individuals that call themselves his line brothers paid to get his tailbone fixed. I highly doubt it. And that's something that these young people have to be thinking about before they go to pledge to these sororities and fraternities. If anything happens to you while you're with them, are they going to leave you where you are? Are they going to call the ambulance? Are they going to call 911? Does any of you know how to do the Heimlich maneuver? God forbid you get something stuck in your throat. Does any of them know how to do chest compressions? Again, CPR, how to check for your pulse? Are they going to if they do? Or are they just going to let whatever happens happen? Try to cover it up and possibly risk being able to save your life because they don't want to tell the truth about what they did. Keep in mind, this is not the first time that somebody has been deleted because of one of these incidents. There's another incident that happened some years ago. I might talk about that, might go into it on this channel in a separate video, where a young man was involved in an alleged hazing ritual, a fraternity ritual, whatever it was, where they had them walking through a house drunk. The young man fell down a flight of stairs and they didn't even take him to the hospital. 12 hours had passed before they finally decided to get him some help. I told y'all before, these people do not care about your children. Let them know what they need to know. Show them what you have to in order to let them know that these people out here, they don't care. They don't care at all. They don't care about their safety. They don't care about their life. They don't care about their well-being. They also don't care about your family. They don't care about these young people's families at all. That's, again, something that y'all need to understand. That's something that these young people, before they go and join these fraternities and sororities, need to understand. And if you decide to do it anyways, the moment you start seeing all this goofy hot mess going on, you need to make the active decision to get out. Because what you don't want is for your family to be mourning your loss because of something one of these Greek organizations did to you. What y'all have to understand is, unfortunately, it is the families, the mothers, the fathers, the brothers, the sisters who are left behind, the grandparents, to mourn children they should not be burying, grandchildren they should not be burying, sisters and brothers they should not have to be burying, all over senselessness and ungodliness. Y'all all let me know what y'all think about all of this down in the comments below respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all all have a very blessed, beautiful, and safe day.